After the release of Moving Targets, Tord Larson left Eddsworld for various reasons. Either he left to pursue a solo career as a comic artist, or he didn't like the attention that fans were giving him, which sadly has caused him to literally live in hiding all these years later. Seriously, people, leave him alone. Because of this, Ed never got the chance to make a full episode dedicated to the departure of his character, so he shoehorned it into the opening of 25 Feet Under the Seat. I don't think it was really a huge loss, since I personally never found his character to be that interesting. He really just felt like the fourth one to me. In the last episode he was in, he only got one line, and it was this.
Phew.
What I did find interesting was the mystery that his exit created within the show's world. A mystery that wouldn't be solved until many years later. In an admittedly kind of disrespectful way, but we'll get to that when we get to that. The episode begins with Matt accidentally flushing his keys down the toilet. Now you're probably asking yourself why he brought his keys with him into the bathroom in the first place, but of course the answer is, why wouldn't you? So logically, the guys flush themselves down the drain to try and get the keys back, but as a result, they end up in the Kingdom of Atlantis. So Atlantis existed beneath England's sewage system this whole time? That explains so much, and yet so little. As they continue on their undersea travels, they find that Matt's keys are now being displayed in a museum dedicated to human paraphernalia. I think it's called the Little Mermaid exhibition. But when Matt tries to take them, they get in trouble with the local authorities. Then while trying to get away, they accidentally release a dangerous sea creature. Then they get caught, they're sent up back to the surface, and that's it. Yeah, nothing too eventful really happens in this episode. It's more of a this happens then this happens kind of thing. This structure's worked for Eddsworld before, like with Hello Hellhole. Unlike that episode, however, 25 Feet Under the Seat doesn't deliver on that many jokes. There's the bit with the plumber stuck in the sink. Some of the stuff in the museum made me chuckle. The flashback sequence showing Tom's life story is pretty funny. And their punishment at the end is funny too. They're sentenced to death by oxygen, which is the most deadly form of execution in Atlantis, since, you know, they can't breathe it. And the guys aren't even affected by it. Plus, Tom's little quip at the end about him breaking Ed's cat and not being sorry for it ties things up pretty nicely. But for a majority of the episode, it's usually just them walking around, looking at stuff, maybe some Simpsons-style background jokes here and there, and a couple of moments with the Atlanteans. A particular highlight for me is the King. This is the funniest character in the whole episode. His way of speaking is comedically exaggerated, and the animation on him is great. But he's only the funniest character in the episode because the comedy is surprisingly subdued compared to previous episodes like Moving Targets. I wouldn't say putting less emphasis on the humor makes 25 Feet Under the Seat boring, though. If anything, it's kind of like Wallace and Gromit, where the comedy is very subtle and underplayed. The whole episode feels a lot like Wallace and Gromit, come to think of it, particularly A Grand Day Out. The characters want something, they take extreme measures to get it, they end up in a vastly different place, and there are other characters trying to stop them. I'm not sure how much of an influence Wallace and Gromit had on Ed, but that's just what I've come to notice. And while I've praised episodes like Spares and Moving Targets for moments like the truck bursting through the arcade or Tord being crushed by a hippo for absolutely no reason, it's actually kind of refreshing to see Eddsworld pull back on its more outlandish humor. 25 Feet Under the Seat has a very relaxed and laid-back tone, and it remains consistent throughout the whole episode. Although I personally think it would have benefited from just a couple more jokes, I find myself appreciating this episode a lot more. If you don't know what to make of 25 Feet Under the Seat, I suggest you dive back into those waters and give it another look.